Hey all, this video is meant to cover some of the trials and tribulations we had installing a dash cam, the Street Guardian SG9665GC version 2 in a 2016 Ford Explorer. Trim on the Explorer is the Platinum. So I wanted to cover some of the challenges we had, because it wasn't as easy as we thought it was going to be. We installed this exact unit in a 2012 Camry, and it took about a half hour from popping trim off to locating a switched fuse, switch being a fuse that turns off when the car is off so that it doesn't drain the battery, because this particular camera is not battery driven, it's capacitor driven, so instant shut off when the power to the car is shut and it's on a switched fuse. So installing on a Japanese car, Toyota Camry 2012, took about a half hour. We spent more time wiring than we did doing the install, and we did a add a tap to the interior fuse box and popped the panel, popped the fuses in, checked connection, ran the wire, adhered the unit to the windshield, and all was good. So we thought we'd have the same ease of luck with a 2016 Explorer. So the unit, very cool little unit, extremely tight boxing. It comes in a normal, this actually comes with it, but normally it's a light plastic one that I've since lost where it's at, and the reason it's out is because I was taking pictures of the unit and the install. But it's a very nice unit that goes essentially up against the front windshield like so. So if this is your windshield, it's adhering like that and going to the front as close as possible. So what I thought I'd discuss on the video is some of the challenges that the Ford Explorer 2016 Platinum offered us, because I couldn't find anything on YouTube that helped me along. So a lot of this was trial and error, all the way down to the fuse type. Couldn't even identify the fuse type for the interior fuse box. There's the panel, and getting to the panel requires that you be a contortionist, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So there's essentially 29 different fuses, none of which are listed as switched. So it's, again, a little bit of a challenge. But if you are trying to identify the fuse type, you know, it talks about microfuse, dual microfuse, and a circuit breaker. Obviously, I would need one of the top two. But there's a lot of fuses that are of different types. So the online manual is very different than this. This actually pulls out and it talks about a micro 2 fuse, and that's a correct designation. The online manual doesn't go this far, but it doesn't talk about a micro 2. It just talks about micro fuses, and there are different types of micro fuses. So this did prove to be quite challenging. So we were able to locate the fuse box, and we were then able to pull a fuse, did it on the engine as well, to discover the actual fuse type. And in fact it is micro 2 is also known as ATR, and I believe these are a new type of fuse. So they were not so easy to find. For us, it was an AutoZone that had them. O'Reilly's didn't have them. Walmart didn't have them. So little things. And when we did the tap, add a tap, we also had to go out and find some grounds, a little higher end grounds, so that we could find the right post to actually ground that on. One of the key pieces of key tools that we use, this actually comes with the camera, with the Street Guardian, and this was a great tool. Very well made, rounded, no sharp edges. These were installation tools we picked off of eBay for like $5, delivered from China, and the edges were a little too sharp for my liking, so I buffed them down so that when we're doing any interior pieces, we're not actually tearing anything on edges, because you really have to get into some close spots with those tools. and I'll show you that in a few minutes. So those were key. The actual wiring, and when I say wiring, running the wire from above the windshield all the way down into the trim, on the sides of the trim, against the weather stripping, and then under the dash was actually quite simple. The hardest part was finding that particular switched fuse, and what I will do is probably break the video and in between segments insert, or at least have pictures of different things we took. Again, you had to be a contortionist to get under this vehicle. Ford did not make it simple to change a fuse in this particular SUV. This was a godsend. This was worth every penny of the $15, because we started with a micrometer, or excuse me, a multimeter, and that we're not multimeter experts. Bought another tool and then finally drove around to find this, and this is as simple as putting it on the ground and then touching the fuse, and when the car's off, if this lights up, you do not have a switched fuse. So of the 29 fuses in the 2016 Platinum Explorer, there are only 3 switched fuses, and 2 of which are a little, I was very reluctant to use based on the description in the manual of what they controlled, so it was kind of an obvious choice. The other thing that was very, very frustrating, beyond frustrating, is when we were trying to ground, because the camera will not work, it will not run unless it's grounded. When we put this against a post, a steel post, we thought it was a 1/4 inch stud, and we went out and we had our 1/4 inch nuts to both put on the top and bottom to lock this ground in. Turns out that on a Japanese car, these 1/4 inch nuts work fine. On an American car, 1/4 inch nut only goes so far before it stops, like beyond the first 1.5 threads. So that led us to believe we were looking at metric, and sure enough, the post that we had to screw these onto is an M6-1.00. So I thought that was quite funny that on a Japanese car everything worked fine with American measurements in terms of nuts, and on an American car to ground this we had to go metric. So that was kind of interesting. So now I want to show you a little bit of freeform what our challenges in the car were.